Dear Vladimir, it's not us. Article by Anna von Reitz. We are going to say some things that you, Mr. President, are already aware of. We say them because the American people are tragically unaware of these facts and they need to know. American foreign trade and foreign policy have been controlled by Britain for 227 years. This is one of the results of the original states contracting for essential government services from the United States, which is a British-controlled corporation headquartered in the foreign international enclave known as the District of Columbia. Most Americans have never read the definitive Treaty of Peace, Paris 1783, which shows that King George remained the Prince and Arch-Treasurer of the United States. Most Americans have never read the actual Constitution and grasped the fact that this agreement gave Britain control of American trade and foreign policy. We can now see why we have been kept at nearly constant war for most of our history. Britain has used us as its bully boy to cause trouble and engaged in war for profit throughout the rest of the world, just as it's trying to do now in the Middle East. As a spider at the center of its web, Britain pulls the strings and throws its agencies. The United States and British Crown wreaks havoc, calculating to fill its coffers with no risk and no exposure to itself. While directing a U.S. foreign policy that is plainly self-destructive and insane from the American standpoint, Queen Elizabeth pretends to have clean hands, and so does the Lord Mayor of London, but the historical documents and the facts are facts. All the trouble we are having in the Middle East, is caused by Britain and not America, and it always has been. The Americans want free access to the Persian Gulf, unmolested by anyone, for the purposes of free trade, and that is the only legitimate interest America has in the Middle East. We trust that the European Union is competent to solve its own gas and oil supply problems with no assistance from us. They could embrace and use free energy technology to solve a great many dependency problems. They could use liquid natural gas, LNG, and ship in supplies and develop storage capacities like Japan and China. They could direct their reinvestment capital to their already existing oil development projects in the North Sea. Instead, British intelligence is working to influence the outcome of US elections and trying to start World War III. Their recent exposure of CIA false flag activities is especially ironic, since British intelligence controls the CIA and mandates all its actions. If you dig deep enough, it's always British at the bottom of the dog pile, causing war and destruction for the entire rest of the world. They have never been willing to live on their own talents and resources and have chosen to be parasites instead. They have built their successive empires on fraud and human enslavement and legal chicanery. They've never given up feudalism. They have never given up colonialism. Most recently, they have moved their financial operations to China, with the result that 800 loyal Chinese generals have been purged, and Russia and the United States are being pitted against each other at every turn, while China sits smug and brags about all the gold it suddenly has. And nobody questions this. Britain disrespects the constitutional agreements it has with the Americans on one hand, and on the other abuses American trust. They have used us as frontmen for British aggression and self-interest for generations. They have deliberately confused their own puppet, the United States, with America and the American people, so as to blame us for their treachery and wrongdoing. Let everyone always remember that the United States is not America. Let us also plainly state before God and everyone that Britain and its corporate shadow government doing business as the quote-unquote United States is a problem for the entire world, including the Americans. This time, if anyone goes to war, let's make sure we get the real culprits and address the actual problem once and for all, instead of stupidly bashing each other for their benefit. Rumors are circulating of a, quote, tactical nuclear exchange, end quote, between the British-controlled United States and Russia. Let us observe that there is no such thing as a tactical nuclear exchange, and that if such a thing happened, it would rapidly spread to global destruction, and that destruction would be the result of British meddling, guile, and greed. Instead of targeting the hapless Americans, whose worst sin is gullibility, please focus your firepower on Britain and ask your Chinese allies about their new best friends. If the Earth is allowed to be destroyed in a firestorm of nuclear bombs unleashed because of the endless dishonesty and greed of British commercial interests, at least let's have all the satisfaction of taking the actual perpetrators down with us. This is On the State of the Nation by Anna von Reitz. I'll leave a link below for you for this.